How important is the African conversation on climate at this time?
The story about climate change has become a reality across the globe. And we're also happy that as a county, we have been picked as one of the examples to participate and share our stories on some of the solutions to climate circumstances. So today, the African Climate Summit is so critical to us as a continent because of trying to consolidate the challenges that are coming out of climate change, the efforts we are trying to do, and more so for Africa to lobby on the global space on the level of intervention that is required to handle the challenges of climate change in Africa. So this conversation is also about the countries of Africa, how we can be able to share experiences between countries, peer to peer, on how deep the effect has been, and also what one country has been able to do, and what needs to be done now going forward.
You said that Tana River has been selected to share some of its experiences in terms of the solutions. Yes. And I do know that the UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, has spoken about the devastation climate change has caused to Africa in terms of flood and lack of rainfall, and which has caused death and destruction, something which Tana River has experienced perennially. So what lessons are you sharing with the delegates worldwide, and what are some of the solutions that you have in place?
Yes. Tana River was able to be picked by UN Habitat to participate in the COP27. We've been featured a bit during COP26. Now I know we are going to be featured big in COP28 in UAE between November, December this year. And for us, for Tana, it was specifically about how we are handling the challenge of floods and droughts and conflicts at the same time through what we assessed and what we adopted. Basically, it is a climate adaptation agenda, because when we came in, we looked at different factors. We looked at poverty indices, and we saw that Tana River has never performed below 62% poverty. In fact, going higher, it could go up to 79.6% poverty index. And looking at that range.
That's 7 out of 10 people poor.
Yes, 79 point something.
Yeah.
So we were a bit concerned, and we got to think wider. Why is it that it is this way? So looking at it from that way, then we were quick to assess other things. And we said probably the poverty index is because most of the population is not engaged in business. And when we assessed that, we found that 85% of the population is not engaged in business. Majority of the population are in subsistence. Out of the 15% that are in business, 10% are actually coming from elsewhere. So the local population that was engaged in business is about 5%. And the 5% are in small-scale businesses. So we said, then there's an issue. We need to get people to make more money, because we cannot be able to deal with poverty if people are not in business. But talking about business, then we looked again at the environment for business. The environment was not good for any business, because Tana, again, is one of the rural counties in Kenya, and one of actually the most rural in the region, in the coastal region. And so we said, then we need to go urban. We want a transition from rural to urban. But not just that. Again, looking at floods, because we saw much of the shocks to the indices is caused by climate shocks. At one time, it's flooding. At another time, it's dry. So there's a loss of wild livestock during the dry season, and there is a loss of crops and even livestock and the rest of everything during the flooding season. But at extremes, during the dry season, there's a conflict. So it's a cyclic kind of process. And so we looked at it, and what we realized that national government in most cases and other parties, they normally come with humanitarian support, coming with relief food, clothes, NFIs, and the rest of the humanitarian support programs to help the people. But that has been happening even before independence, because the river has been there before independence, after independence, to date. From all those centuries to this century, the kind of approach that was coming was humanitarian. And we said, no, we need to change from humanitarian approach to a development approach. But then looking at all that again, we looked at settling the population, because the whole population is shaking. During drought, people are shaking, they're moving all over the place. During floods, it's the same. From the flooding or the agrarian area to the pastoralist area. The pastoralists are not settled. Today they're in here, tomorrow they're in that village. So the whole of the population is not settled. So we came up now with a program we call the Village Cluster Program. The Village Cluster Program is about not just urbanization, but reorganizing the society into resilient settlements where services are consolidated and easy to deliver. So we're moving people from the flood-prone areas to higher grounds, at the same time reorganizing the population in the hinterland into more resilient settlements. Someone may not understand it, that the hinterland is also affected by flood. People believe or think that floods only affect
along the Tana River.
Along the river Tana. It's not that way. Tana is sort of a basin. From the east, you have the Yatta Plateau. From the northeast, you have northwest, you have Aberdare and Mount Kenya. Then from the east side, from the river is a bit of a raised ground, then sort of a flat into River Juba. So Tana is actually a low level county. So because of the effects of the high grounds all over, there are so many seasonal rivers that come from the Yatta Plateau into River Tana and then all through to we have a total of about 15 seasonal rivers in the hinterland, draining westerly into River Tana, then all the way to the ocean. So when it rains, it's flooded all over the place. Roads get cut off. People get cut off. This community does not see the other. Sometimes cattle are carried away by the river. So it's a complete mess in the whole county. So it's about reorganizing the whole county. It's about urbanizing the whole country to adapt to climate change. So that took us now into spatial planning programs. We lobbied very quickly to get GIS system, to have the land registry, to hire staff to be able now to operate machines, expertise that can be able to help us in now the spatial planning, physical planning programs. We had now to hire more experts in agriculture in different sectors, because is not about the village alone, but realigning the rest of the sectors with the clusters, such that 2, 3, 4, 5 of them can now collapse into one small city. So we are looking at, again, agriculture. We said we need to adopt to climate smart agricultural practices, solarization, mechanization programs, subsidies, adopting to more of species that are resistant, a bit of resistant to the effects of climate change, moving from over-reliance on subsistence and coming up with more of a large-scale program, because there is also over-reliance on the subsistence. On the other hand, more modern practices on fishing, on apiculture, on mariculture, on all the sectors, is a whole overhaul of things. And we knew that, yes, we don't have the money to go so big, but we have to start slowly in each of the sectors. So you'll see that in some places the spatial planning is complete. A few roads have been done. In others, it's up to Cabro. In some places, there's water. In others, there's electricity. But we're moving well. And when now we went to lobby with UN agencies, and we went to UN Habitat, they were impressed by what we have come up with. So they picked Tana as a pilot in Africa. Is the only pilot for UN Habitat on urbanization. UNDP came by, FAO on agriculture, and the rest of the parties now started coming in one after the other. Now we have a beehive of partners working with us towards the realization of that transformation of Tana from a rural to an urban county, leveraging, actually adopting to climate change.
How is this transformation coming along so far?
It's a process. Transformation doesn't come easy. Of course, what I can say now, we are at the very slow transformation phase. We cannot really say that we'll reach the rapid phase of transformation quite soon. Yeah. But the beauty is that the people have bought into the idea, 100%. We have more than probably 100% buy-in by the population. All of them are excited that now we are getting them into a new way of life. Now they are going to get out of the floods. Now they are going to get out of much of these losses. They now know that eventually the issue of prevalence of loss of lives is not going to happen anymore. And the fact that we are not denying them access to where they used to rely on in their life has given them no more of hope. Yeah. Initially, they thought we are moving them out, then we take over the land that they are moving from.
And blocking them out
and
completely.
block them off there. But they have come to realize, no, that's not the issue. Mm-hmm. They are moving to where they live permanently, but they'll be moving to go and do their practice and then go back home. Okay. Yeah. So the population are anxious. They want things to happen as fast as possible. Now we are under pressure as a county government to deliver. And we are telling them, no, it can't be fast, because there are many things to fix. You have to fix the roads. You have to put the water. You have to put electricity. You have to put their schools. You have to have hospitals. You have to have the administrative center, the village administration in place, the ward administration in place. So it's a journey. And we still hope that more partners will come, including national government. We think that national government has not come in very, very aggressively to support us, because we believe it's not a county government agenda. It should be a national agenda. And the rationale is this. If you look at the level of interventions by national government and other parties, and we did the mathematics. Remember, in each year we have 2 rainy seasons. That means we have 2 flooding seasons. Then we have 2 dry seasons. So And then if we are lucky, then we just have these ones. We avoid the conflict. But if we are not lucky, we run into a conflict. Both of these seasons come with diseases. Rift Valley fever, cholera, malaria, all of those things. So sometimes it comes with locusts and many other challenges. So what does it mean here? When we did mathematics, adding what the county government has put in two of them, in 2017, 2018, and looking at some other NGOs, and looking at exactly what Red Cross through national government has put in, we realize we are spending close to 2.6 billion shillings per season. Per season. That means 2 flush seasons is about 5.2 billion shillings.
That's a lot of money.
Now, if you add now the others, the dry ones, the same amount, then we are spending close to 10.4 billion shillings annually. Don't add, without adding the conflict, because the conflict will go with lives, it will go with what? It will go with a lot of intervention, the military and every other person. It's even a higher budget than we think. Now, looking at that budget, and then at the end of the year, there is nothing to show. After every one season, there is nothing to show. So counting the years that we have come by 10-point-something billion per year, we said that's a big loss. Looking at the cost that will take to establish one cluster is 700 million. So if we looked back at what was lost in the two seasons, 2017, 2018, you take the 10.2 billion, divide by 700 million, those are close to how many clusters? Those are the 10.2 billion divided by 700. That is around 9 clusters. 9 clusters. That means we'll have settled close to 73,000 people, homesteads in the county. In how many years? In 1 year. So if this thing was to be done consistently, say that budget that goes into the humanitarian program would be diverted to development programs, then the whole of Tana could have been settled in 5 years, fully settled, with roads, with airstrips, with hospitals, with everything, with water and the rest of the things. Then we're out of the problem. And that is the rationale we have been trying to sell to government and tell them, look, don't spend more money again on humanitarian, convert that money to institutions of government that can be able to support in the development agenda, and we're out of these challenges.
Oh, wow. So in this respect then,
Yes.
from the discussion going on here,
Yes.
what would be a satisfactory outcome for you
Yes.
as the governor of Tana River County with respect to the people of Tana River?
Yes, the satisfactory outcome is just simple. That out of the conversation, then, of course, it's not just about that transformation, but also the restoration of the ecosystems, which is a big story. So when we're talking about loss of biodiversity, loss of ecosystem is real for Tana. To us, if that is not handled in totality, which means then there has to be serious interventions from national to the county, that little money we are calling FLOCA will not be enough. Eventually, that flora and fauna will lose. The habitat for the birds goes. The breeding places for the fish goes. The habitat for the animals, the forests, those mangroves goes. All that ecosystem, all that riverine ecosystem from the sea all the way to the end of Tana. And the loss of livelihoods. That's what we're talking about. So there's a big challenge there, and that's why we are happy to be part of the conversation. So at the end of the day, what I'll be looking at is more funding not just on the flocker, but more efforts that will seek to restore the biodiversity in Tana.